All right, let's start with the big story that we are tracking on Wion this morning, where just a few weeks after the Lion Air Flight 610 crashed off the coast in Indonesia, fingers are now being pointed at Boeing, the company that manufactured the aircraft. An Indonesian man whose son was killed in the plane crash has now sued Boeing, alleging that there was a defect in the design of the Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft, which caused it to crash. Now, the lawsuit filed in the Circuit Court of the Cook County in Illinois has alleged that Boeing did not adequately warn Lion Air or its pilots of this unsafe aspect in their design. Now, the victim was in fact flying home from a conference in Indonesia when the plane suddenly crashed. He was to be married this week. The lawsuit comes at a time when Lion Air and a US pilots group has already alleged that Boeing withheld information about the new 737 MAX 8, a new plane that was inducted in August. Now, the manual that comes with the new Boeing aircraft allegedly did not mention that when the plane's computer detects a stall, it automatically triggers a response such as lowering the nose of the aeroplane. Now, the operational director of Lion Air has issued this statement, and I quote, "We don't have that in the manual of Boeing 737 MAX 8. That is why we don't have that special training for that specific situation." The reports also indicate that investigators are now looking into these claims very seriously, and they'll check if a sensor did indeed transmit incorrect data to trigger the stall prevention system of the aircraft. The Boeing has said that all information that is required to fly the new plane was given, and the 737 is actually a very safe plane to fly. Now, earlier last week, Indian aviation sector regulator, the DGCA, had asked Jet Airways and SpiceJet to check and correct for possible sensor-related issues in the Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes in their fleet, which could cause an aircraft to lose altitude very significantly in a very short span of time. Now, the order by the Directorate General of Civil Aviation is in line with the advisories that have been issued by Boeing and also by the US watchdog Federal Aviation Administration earlier. Now, as of now, Jet Airways and SpiceJet are the only carriers who have the Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes in India and have at least 6 such aircrafts in both their fleets combined. All right, now for more on this, we are joined in by my colleague Sumit Chaturvedi. Good morning to you, Sumit. You've been following aviation for a long period of time now. And this very curious case in terms of what has happened with Lion Air, where one of those individuals who was killed, his father, has now sued Boeing, saying that there was actually a design defect in the Boeing 737 MAX 8, which actually led to this disaster, which, if Boeing had forewarned, could have been prevented.
Well, sir, yes, this is true. This has happened. And I would say that this is just the beginning of lawsuits, because as the mystery unravels, definitely there is some responsibility Boeing has to take here. And if Boeing is in the middle of this storm, definitely all other passengers, we expect them to sue Boeing as well, because this was a serious mistake if committed by Boeing and not putting such information in the manuals of the aircraft. And if because of this fault, the plane crashed in Indonesia, definitely this is a big thing for Boeing. The Boeing is not new to these controversies. Earlier also in the past, Boeing faced the battery fire issue, though no lives were lost. Here, 189 lives were lost. That's a big loss for, I would say, that any airline, and definitely this is a big loss too. So I expect other parents to come out, other victims to come out, other relatives of the victims to come out and sue the airline as well, because ultimately it was the Boeing which was at fault. Also, we would like to bring into perspective the India angle here, because Indian Airlines are also flying a couple of these planes, total of 6 planes, but more than a dozen of the planes are on order by SpiceJet.
Right.
So clearly the problems for Boeing are just beginning.
Absolutely, indeed. And also, Sumit, considering the fact that this is said to be a defect that was inbuilt into the plane, where there was this sensor which would trigger, causing the plane to actually lose its altitude very dramatically. Now, why would firstly Boeing want to put that sort of a feature in a plane? And secondly, why did it not advise the companies that were purchasing these planes from Boeing about this defect that was inherent in these planes to begin with?
So there could be 2 aspects to the whole issue. First, it was a something which was oversight and which was done innocently, not deliberately. So in a way, Boeing thought that this feature may not be used, or this feature of anti-stalling will be used by pilots, but they would be knowing about it.
Right.
So somewhere there was missing information, and no one is quite sure right now whether it was deliberately done or whether it happened. So all depends on whether it was deliberately done or not. And even when the people, when they drag Boeing to court, the victims or relatives of victims, they drag Boeing to court, the court will also ask whether this information was deliberately held back or was it an innocent mistake. So all depends on that aspect only. Though there is a possibility this could have been the reason, it is not confirmed this was the reason as well. So that's why it is still a speculation there.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Sumit Chaturvedi, for joining us and getting us those inputs. Now, this could have been the reason, is what is being speculated, but it may not have been the reason that led to the Lion Air flight from crashing. Now, remember, at least about 189 people were killed in the month of October in the Lion Air crash, and now the pilots are claiming that Boeing had withheld some very crucial information from them about a technical flaw in the plane. Now, do you think that Boeing is actually guilty? You can join our social media snap poll. And this is, of course, the question that we are asking. Should Boeing be held to account for not revealing this flaw in the plane? You can post your opinion on our Wion Twitter handle, that is @Wion News. And the results will be put out by 7 p.m. later today.